New shapes. Similar, but confusing. All the other addresses that appear where 800 Ellis should be. Smaller, longer, darker. Lower, older, bigger. But never just my home. Bitter. Bitterness. Bitterness sweet as the cold of our winters. We're the coldest city in the world. What enchantments this cold offers up to the person with the right attitude. What exuberant lungfuls of fresh air the city has for those who want to scoop it up in their mouths. Happiness. Dazzling outdoor happiness for anyone who cares to put on a pair of mitts and embrace it. Squeeze every last snowflake of joy from it. Back in 1906, we Winnipeggers built our own happy land. Our own Luna Park, our own dreamland. You'd never know it, but between these West End streets of Aubrey and Dominion, between Portage Avenue and the Assiniboine, sprawled the immense permanent playground, teeming with oddity. Wind-chilled roller coasters and Ferris wheels enveloped themselves in frost half the year. A happy land for us wintry Winnipeggers. Happy land, keeping us happy. The year 1957 saw Winnipeg embroiled in the scandal of the Wolseley elm, growing out of the center of Wolseley Avenue, surrounded by a curb and a fringe of grass that Ripley's Believe It or Not declared was the smallest park in the world. In 1957, the city assigned a crew to remove the elm. In the ensuing standoff, a dozen elderly neighborhood women encircled the tree arm in arm to fend off the city workers' buzzsaws. Within minutes, the police had arrived, paddy wagons and all, for the old biddies. A crowd gathered. If they want to chop down this tree, said one woman, they're going to have to chop us down first. In the end, the matter was settled peacefully by newly elected Mayor Stephen Juba, who pulled up in his Cadillac and sent the workers home. Later that week, vandals, obviously working for the city, blew up the tree with dynamite. What if City Hall ever listened to the wishes of the people? 1919. Returning soldiers and police on the right. Our workers, stage left. The drama of our city's most glorious moment, the 1919 general strike. The clash of the marchers. Their grand parades surging from each direction, meeting in the middle. Meeting where? On this day, in front of St. Mary's Academy for Girls. St. Mary's Academy for Girls, where the quaking little princesses of the middle class tremble out their father's fear of workers. Fear the workers might actually get paid fairly someday. But the workers are not to be denied. Neither police truncheon nor the wealth of the bourgeoisie can stall their determination. The newspapers paint the workers as Bolshevik rapists, which galvanizes the girls' worrisome fathers into a frenzy of paranoia and sets the nuns, those ever-opiating nuns, foolish as the turkeys they raise, puffing up into a gobbling panic. Such was the crucible of the continent's labor movement. Here in Winnipeg, brave men doing what had to be done, teaching the next generation to throw off its girlish fears of the inevitable. The Workers' Night School, and some of their most eager students sleepwalk right out to the barricades to meet their new teachers. What they want, they know not, but they're gonna get it, and our city will be at the forefront of the workers' rights movement from here on in. You can feel the spirit of labor still whenever you walk around St. Mary's Academy at night. You can still see the impotent old fence, now snow-buried, that once tried to keep those heroic Bolsheviks at bay. Now, a single sleepwalker remarches the same historic route the strikers took past the school. Is he remembering with his blood those long-ago days of excitement? Or is he just another sleepwalker jingling his keys in his pocket? He's barely noticed by anyone at St. Mary's. He is as invisible as I am otherwise. Maybe it is I. The closest I ever got to St. Mary's Academy for girls. I can remember getting lost as a 3-year-old who rode off from home on the seat of my little green dump truck and ending up in the grounds of St. Mary's, forbidden territory for a boy. Soon I was surrounded by solicitous schoolgirls who coddled me, teased me, held my hand, pressed me into their blouses, and kissed me in a kind of competition for me, which ended only with the arrival of a big nun. Now my encounters with the students of this fenced-in school are limited only to little lunchtime sightings. The girls like to smoke at Munson Park across the street. Delinquent girls. Nothing stokes my mother's engines more. Well, delinquent girls are all in the past for me, Mother. It's time to get back to work. Back to the task of disentangling myself from this town. My sister hit and killed a deer. My mother sees through this euphemism, for it is a euphemism. Everything that happens in this city is a euphemism. Mother understands in a second what this deer, blood, and fur means, and somehow she's right. She can read our family and our civic secrets, our desire and our shame, as easily as she can read a newspaper. Mother, maybe the most psychic of all Winnipeggers. No matter where I am, I can feel her watching me. I can feel her hand on my shoulder when I'm out sleepwalking, guiding me back to my own bed. I don't think it matters if she's awake or asleep, living or dead. She'll always know exactly what I'm doing. Winnipeggers have always been skilled at reading past the surface and into the hidden depths of their city. On a small scale, we had Curious Lou Profeta back in the 1930s. He was famous for despooking furniture that Winnipeggers feared haunted. The city once even hired him to spiritually cleanse a streetcar that was giving passengers the jitters. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle always cited Winnipeg as having the greatest psychic possibilities of any city he had ever visited, possibly because of the lap, the fur, the frost, etc., but especially because of the forks, and the forks beneath the forks. The First Nations people knew how to read what Conan Doyle only sensed in this city, for centuries burying their dead as close as possible to the most powerful confluence of our 4 rivers, Red and Assiniboine, Red and Assiniboine. In the 1920s, Thomas Glendenning Hamilton, distinguished Winnipeg medical doctor and politician, held at his home elaborately documented seances in the hope of contacting his dead son. These nocturnal confabulations quickly spun out into the viscous and cottony hallucinations you see here, depictions of the war constantly waged in this city between the 2 worlds in which Winnipeggers live now and which they expect to inhabit in the future. The most intriguing work in the paranormal field here in Winnipeg was led by medium Gwyneth Lloyd back in 1939, the same year she co-founded what became, eventually, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. She conducted a number of notorious seances in which she danced out, rather than spoke, the restless messages from the denizens of the beyond. The most famous of these meetings she conducted at our provincial legislative building, which also happens to be the world's largest Masonic temple. Secretly constructed along ancient occult specifications in 1922 by our Premier Rodman P. Roblin, who along with his entire cabinet we're third-degree Masons. That's the Greek god Hermes atop our dome, disguised as the Golden Boy by an armful of wheat. Our sleepy eyes never suspecting his fearsome pagan power and unlikely presence here in modern North America. Present at the medium's table that night were our city's most respected city fathers, including the incorruptible Mayor Cornish, and the madams, or shop stewards, of our illustrious brothel collectives, women respected for their political acumen and clout in the community. Countless streets in our core area are now named for these great women.